The city of Nova Cascade glittered like a circuit board under the midnight sky, its towers pulsing with holographic ads and drone traffic. In the penthouse of Obsidian Tower, billionaire tech mogul Julian Crane sat in his sleek office, the walls lined with screens streaming real-time data from his empire, Crane Tech. At 42, Julian was a legend, charismatic, ruthless, and untouchable, his company's neural interfaces and social platforms reshaping how the world connected. His life was a curated masterpiece. Every post, every interview, every smile calculated to maintain his image as the ultimate innovator. But tonight, his carefully constructed world was about to crack. Across the city, in a dimly lit loft cluttered with servers and takeout cartons, Elise typed furiously, her eyes narrowed at a holoscreen. Once Julian's wife, now his ex, Elise was a ghost in the digital realm, a hacker known as Wraith. 5 years ago, their marriage had imploded not from lack of love, but from secrets Julian refused to share. Elise had walked away with a modest settlement and a heart full of questions. But it was only after their divorce that she'd uncovered the truth. Julian was gay, a fact he'd buried beneath layers of wealth and denial. She'd found it in encrypted emails, private chats, moments he thought were hidden. Now, she was going to drag that truth into the light. Elise's vendetta wasn't just about revenge. It was about freedom. Julian's platforms, Nexus Link and Pulse, controlled 80% of global social media, their algorithms shaping narratives, silencing voices, and enforcing conformity. He'd built an empire on authenticity while hiding his own. Elise saw the hypocrisy, and it burned. She'd spent years honing her skills, infiltrating dark web circles, and building tools to pierce Crane Tech's defenses. Tonight, she'd hack Julian's personal accounts, his Nexus Link profile, his Pulse feeds, and expose him, not to destroy him, but to force him to face himself. Her fingers danced over a custom rig, her neural implant humming as it connected to the digital ether. Crane Tech's security was formidable, a labyrinth of AI-driven firewalls and quantum encryption. Julian had hired the best, but Elise was better. She'd been his confidant once, privy to his early code, his quirks, his blind spots. She deployed a swarm of microbots, each a fragment of her own AI, to probe Nexus Link's outer defenses. The system pushed back, its eye sniffing for intruders, but Elise was a shadow, her bots cloaking themselves in routine traffic. The first breach came at 2:17, .m. Her bots found a vulnerability in Nexus Link's API, a forgotten endpoint Julian's team had overlooked. Elise slipped a worm inside, a sleek piece of code designed to burrow into Julian's personal account. It wasn't enough to post yet. She needed his private keys, his authentication tokens, the digital DNA of his online self. Her implant buzzed, warning of a counterattack. Crane Tech's AI had noticed the intrusion, tightening its grip. Elise smirked, redirecting her bots to flood the system with junk data, a smokescreen to keep the busy dot as the worm worked. Memories of Julian surfaced unbidden. Their first date, a quiet dinner in a rooftop garden, his laugh warm against the city's hum. The way he'd look at her, like she was the only person in the room. But there were other moments, his late-night absences, his guarded phone calls, the distance that grew until it swallowed their marriage. She'd loved him, fiercely, but love wasn't enough when he couldn't love himself. The worm pinged a success signal, pulling her back. She had his keys. Phase 1 was complete. The next day, Elise blended into Nova Cascade's morning rush, her hoodie and glasses a stark contrast to the tailored dresses she'd worn as Julian's wife. She tracked him via a hacked drone, its feed showing him at his favorite cafe, a glass-walled spot in the tech district. Julian sat alone, scrolling his tablet, his face a mask of control. Elise settled at a nearby table, her implant tapping into the cafe's Wi-Fi to monitor his activity. He was posting on Pulse a polished update about CraneTech's latest neural interface. The comments were fawning, his followers numbering in the billions. Elise's jaw tightened. That was about to change. She activated a micro-drone, disguised as a speck of dust, to plant a keylogger on his tablet. It was risky. Julian's devices were shielded, but Elise had designed the drone herself, its signal cloaked to mimic background noise. As it settled on his screen, she caught his eye through the crowd. For a heartbeat, she thought he recognized her, his brow creasing in that familiar way. But he looked away, dismissing the stranger in the hoodie. Elise exhaled, her implant streaming the keylogger's data, passwords, tokens, fragments of his digital life. Back in her loft, Elise analyzed. Gahal. Julian's security was tight, but the keylogger had caught something unexpected, a private Pulse message to an anonymous account. I can't keep this up. Meet me at the old observatory. 11 p.m. Elise's pulse quickened. Julian? Reaching out? It didn't fit the man she'd known, the one who'd built walls higher than his towers. Was he unraveling? Or was this a trap? She ran the message through her decryption tools, confirming its authenticity. It was real, and it was a chance she couldn't ignore. That night, she stood at the old observatory, a crumbling relic overlooking the city's neon sprawl. The air was sharp with salt and rust, the distant hum of drones a constant reminder of CraneTech's reach. Elise's implant scanned for surveillance, her hoodie pulled low. Julian arrived alone, his silhouette sharp against the city's glow. He looked older, the lines around his eyes deeper, his shoulders heavy with something unspoken. Elise, he said, his voice low, and her heart stuttered. He'd known it was her. Of course he had. She'd never been invisible to him. Not. Really? Why are you doing this? She could lie, play it off, but his eyes pinned her in place. I saw your message, she said, keeping her tone even. Sounds like you're breaking. He laughed, a hollow sound. You always saw through me, but you don't know everything. CraneTech. It's bigger than me now. I'm trapped. Trapped? She scoffed, stepping closer. Too close. She could smell his cologne, the same cedar and smoke scent from their marriage. You built this, Julian. You chose it. Not all of it, he said, his voice raw. There's things I can't tell. You, not yet. But I need your help. Her implant buzzed, warning of drones nearby. She ignored it, her eyes locked on his. Show me, she said, softer than she meant. Give me something real. Julian hesitated, then pulled a small drive from his coat. This is everything. My backups, my fail-safes. But it's dangerous, Elise. If you use it, they'll come for you. Then let them, she said, taking the drive. Her fingers brushed his, a spark of memory and regret. My place, now. They moved through the city like shadows, Elise's loft a fortress of code and chaos. She plugged the drive in, her implant scanning for traps. The data was a bombshell proof of Julian's secret, yes, but also CraneTech's manipulation of user data, rigging elections, silencing dissent. It was enough to burn his empire down. But as she looked at Julian, his face half lit by her screens, she saw something else. A man on the edge, begging for a way out. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about saving him, too. Elise's loft was a cocoon of flickering screens and humming servers, the air thick with the scent of burnt coffee and ozone. She and Julian sat at her rig, the drive he'd given her spilling secrets across her holodisplays. The data was a digital inferno chronotex. ALGORITHMs, manipulating user behavior, swaying public opinion, and burying inconvenient truths. But buried deeper were Julian's personal files. encrypted messages to a man named Theo, a lover he'd hidden even from himself, their words raw with longing and fear. Elise's chest tightened as she read them, not out of jealousy but sorrow. Julian had built a cage of his own making, and she'd been collateral damage. They worked in tense silence, Elise's implant parsing the data at breakneck speed, while Julian provided access codes only he knew. His proximity was a distraction, his knee brushing hers, his breath steady but heavy with unspoken weight. She remembered nights like this, years ago, when they'd coded together, their laughter filling the gaps between lines. Now, every glance was a negotiation, every touch a question. Did he regret leaving her? Did she want him to? "You could have told me," she said, breaking the silence. Her voice was low, but it cut through the server hum. "Back then, about Theo, about you." Julian's hands froze on his tablet, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I didn't know how," he said finally, his voice rough. "I was scared. Of losing you? Of losing everything? Crane Tech was my way out, control the narrative, control the world. But it just swallowed me." Elise wanted to snap back, to unleash the years of hurt, but his honesty disarmed her. She'd spent so long hating him, but now seeing him stripped bare, she felt the old pull of their love, not romantic anymore, but something deeper, a bond forged in shared dreams and broken promises. "We can end this," she said instead. "Expose it all. But you have to choose, Julian. Them or the truth." He met her gaze, his blue eyes raw. "I choose you. I always did, in my own messed up way." The words hit like a punch, but she pushed them aside. There was no time for sentiment. Her worm had burrowed deeper into Crane Tech's servers, using Julian's codes to bypass their quantum encryption. They were close to the core Nexus links, central hub where every user's data converged. If she could hijack it, she could broadcast the truth about Crane Tech and Julian's secret to billions. But the hub was guarded by Sentinel, an AI Julian had designed, a digital beast that learned and adapted faster than anything Elise had faced. "We need to go physical," Julian said, his voice tight as he pulled up a schematic of Crane Tech's data center. "The hub's in their vault, offline except for maintenance windows. I can get us in, but it's a fortress." Elise's implant ran the numbers. 92% chance of detection, 71% chance of capture. She ignored it. "When's the next window?" "Tonight," he said. 3 hours. The Crane Tech vault was a monolith in Nova Cascade's industrial sprawl, its black steel walls ringed with drones and laser grids. Elise and Julian approached under cover of a hacked drone swarm, their stealth suits bending light to mask their movements. Elise's implant fed her real-time data guard rotations, thermal scans, Sentinel's patrol patterns. Julian moved beside her, his own tech synced with hers, their steps eerily in tune. It was like their old days, but now the stakes were their lives got at the vault's edge. Julian disabled a drone with a pinpoint EMP, and Elise hacked the biometric lock, her implant wrestling with Sentinel's outer defenses. Inside, the air was cold, the hum of quantum processors deafening. The hub was a glowing sphere, pulsing like a heart, its cables snaking into the dark. But Sentinel was waiting. A laser grid flickered to life, its pattern shifting every 5 seconds. Elise's implant screamed warnings. This was Julian's work, his genius turned against them. "You didn't mention this," she hissed, her eyes narrowing. "I didn't know they'd upgraded it," Julian said, his voice strained. "Sentinel's evolving faster than I expected." Number. Time to argue. Elise linked her implant to the grid's control node, diving into its code. It was a living thing, Julian's signature in every line, elegant, brutal, adaptive. She found a flaw, a microsecond delay in its pattern shift, and set the pulse to freeze the grid for 2 seconds. "Now," she said, and they sprinted through. The lasers grazing their heels dot in the hub chamber. Elise plugged drive into the core, uploading a virus to hijack Nexus Link's broadcast system. Julian stood guard, his device scanning for Sentinel's counterattacks. They were in sync, their movements fluid, but the air crackled with danger. An alarm blared. Sentinel had detected them, drones converging on their position. "Virus is at 82%, Elise said, her vision blurring as her implant pushed its limits. Julian grabbed her arm, steadying her. "Stay with me," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. The upload hit 100%, and the hub flickered, its glow dimming as the virus took hold. But drones were pouring in, their scanners locking on. Julian pulled her toward a maintenance tunnel, their hands locked together. They ran, the vault's alarm screaming, Nova Cascade's lights blurring outside. Elise's implant pinged the virus was spreading, hijacking every Nexus Link feed, ready to broadcast the truth. They emerged in an alley, their stealth suits smoking from overload. Julian's face was grim. "They'll know it was me," he sighed. "I'm done." "Then come with me," Elise said, her voice softer than she intended. She stepped closer, her hand on his chest. "We finish this together." Julian looked at her, his eyes searching. For a moment, the city's chaos faded. He leaned in, not for a kiss, but a touch of foreheads, a gesture of trust. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "But I'm in." Elise nodded, her heart heavy but resolute. The virus was ready, but the final step was hers to take. She'd expose Julian's truth, not to hurt him, but to free him. And in doing so, she'd bring Crane Tech's lies crashing down. They slipped into the shadows, the city's pulse chasing them, their alliance a fragile bridge between past and future. The safe house was a forgotten server farm on the edge of Nova Cascade, its rusted racks and flickering lights a stark contrast to the city's neon sheen. Elise and Julian huddled in a corner, their faces lit by the glow of her portable rig. The air was thick with dust and the hum of overworked cooling fans, but the data from Julian's drive was a live wire, crackling. With potential. Crane Tech's sins were laid bare algorithms that manipulated elections, silenced activists, and profited from stolen lives. Tucked within were Julian's private messages to Theo, a quiet confession of love and fear that Elise had never meant to weaponize, but now held like a blade. She'd planned to expose Julian's secret to force his hand, but sitting across from him, his eyes heavy with regret, she wondered if truth could heal as much as it hurt. They worked through the night, Elise's implant sorting the data into packets for a global leak. Julian's knowledge of Crane Tech's systems was critical. He mapped their server redundancies, their fail-safes, their lies. Every keystroke felt like a step toward absolution, but the weight of their past pressed against her. She remembered their wedding, Julian's smile as they danced under starlight, and the slow erosion of that joy as his secrets grew. Now his hand brushed hers as they worked, a fleeting warmth that stirred old feelings, not romance, but a deeper loyalty, a shared fight. "We go live at dawn," Elise said, her voice steady. "Nexus Link's morning traffic peak, maximum reach." Her virus was primed to hijack every feed, every holoscreen, every neural interface tied to Crane Tech's platforms. The leak would include Julian's messages to Theo, not to shame him, but to show the world his humanity, his struggle, and Crane Tech's hypocrisy in burying it. Julian's jaw tightened. "Once this drops, I'm finished. No more empire, no. More hiding. You sure about this? Are you?" She countered, meeting his gaze. His eyes, once so guarded, were open now, raw with something like hope. "This isn't just about you, Julian. It's about everyone they've hurt, everyone they'll keep hurting if we don't act." He nodded, a ghost of a smile breaking. Through. You always were braver than me. The words lingered, heavy with their history. Elise turned back to her rig, her implant buzzing as she finalized the virus's broadcast protocols. Her dark web all-eyes hackers, leakers, rogue coders were ready to amplify the signal, ensuring Cranetech couldn't scrub it. Julian fed her the last of his access codes, each one a betrayal of the empire he built. By 4 a.m., the virus was locked and loaded, a digital guillotine poised to fall. But Cranetech wasn't asleep. Elise's implant screened Alert Sentinel was hunting, its eye scouring the city's networks for their signal. Drones swarmed Nova Cascade, their thermal, scans painting the streets. The safe house was hidden, but not invisible. They're closing in, Julian said, his holomap showing red dots converging on their location. We need to move. No, Elise said, her voice firm. We launch from here. If we run now, we lose the window. Her implant calculated. The odds: 94% chance of detection, 79% chance of capture. She ignored it. This was their shot. They barricaded the safe house, rigging EMP traps to slow the drones. Elise's fingers flew over her rig, her implant burning as it pushed the virus to Cranetech's core. Julian stood watch, his own device countering Sentinel's probes. Their rhythm was seamless, a dance of code and trust, but the drones were relentless, their hum growing louder. Elise's vision blurred, her implant overheating, but she held the connection, the virus at 92%. Elise, Julian said, his voice urgent. He grabbed her shoulders, grounding her. You're pushing too hard. Let me take some of the load. She shook her head, but he was already linking his device to hers, sharing the data stream. Their systems sensed a digital intimacy that echoed their old partnership. Together, they pushed the virus to 100%, and Nexus Link's feeds flickered, hijacked by their broadcast. Across Nova Cascade, holoscreens lit up with Cranetech's crimes-rigged votes, silenced voices, and Julian's messages to Theo, raw and unfiltered. The city woke to a reckoning. Drones breached the safe house, their lasers cutting through the MP traps. Elise and Julian ran, slipping through a hidden exit into the city's underbelly. The streets were chaos protests erupting, hollow billboards looping their leak, Cranetech stock crashing in real time. They ducked into an abandoned subway tunnel, their breaths ragged, their hands still clasped. We did it, Julian said, his voice hoarse. He looked at her, his face lit by the faint glow of her implant. You set me free, Elise, even if it costs me everything. She squeezed his hand, her heart heavy but full. It's not about the cost. It's about the truth. You're not alone anymore. He smiled, a real one this time, and pulled her into a hug not romantic, but a promise of something new. The city roared above, Cranetech's empire crumbling. But in that moment, it was just them, two souls who'd fought their way back to each other. They slipped deeper into the tunnels, the future uncertain, but theirs to shape. Elise had started this for revenge, but she'd found something better: redemption. For both of them, in a world remade by their courage.